Open your eyes. Look within. Are you satisfied with the life you're living? This question, or rather this timely reminder, is a message, a call to assess and address how we are going about this thing called life. It's a message from one of Jamaica's greatest sons, a music and cultural icon. His name is Bob Marley, and today is the anniversary of his birth. As we celebrate this gift that was given to us Jamaicans and indeed to the world, bear this in mind, don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is gonna be all right. Now, I'm no Bob, but I'm happy to be your guide inside this edition of Jamaica Magazine. I am, in fact, Theodore Henry, and I'm inviting you to stay with us for the next half hour. There's a lot to learn and enjoy, so please, stick around.
On our roads, remember, take time, be courteous, drive good, walk good. Don't drink alcohol and drive. Don't drive tired or sleepy. Don't tailgate and don't overtake unless it is safe to do so. And always drive at a speed which will allow you time to stop quickly and safely. Let's keep it safe on our roads.
Our first feature inside Jamaica Magazine is a staple, though the conversation is new. We're getting the facts on road safety. What are the risk factors? Why are so many Jamaicans losing their lives and livelihoods to traffic collision? What can be done to make the traffic environment safer for all of us? Vanessa Silvera and Deidre Hudson Sinclair get that conversation going right now.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Vanessa Silvera. Today we're reiterating the discussion around road safety. Now in 2021, 484 persons died as a result of road traffic crashes, which is 51 more than that of 2020. And we have not even factored in the injuries, those who've been injured. Now we've started a new year and the figures are still spiraling. Between January 1 and 24 this year, there were 28 fatalities. What is to be done to halt the increased number of deaths on our roads? To guide the conversation is Acting Director of the Road Safety Unit of the Ministry of Transport and Mining, Deidre Hudson Sinclair. Welcome to the program, Mrs. Hudson Sinclair.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's get started. What is the data showing now as it relates to road traffic crashes on our roads?
Well, unfortunately, we've lost a lot of pedestrians. Most of the fatalities starting at the beginning of this year, are pedestrians. But we also, in that figure, there are private motor vehicle passengers and drivers, as well as commercial motor vehicle drivers. So we recognize that there's a mix. And, the unfortunate situation that we have is that at the very beginning of the year, we had a multiple fatality, which included a public passenger vehicle and a private motor vehicle.
Wow.
So we recognize that from day one, we've been spiraling. And it will take a lot of effort by our citizens to obey the rules of the road and by law enforcement to identify persons who are disobeying the rules of the road, as well as looking at our roadways and seeing how best we can treat with them to ensure that there's safety for all road users.
Do you think the road safety messages and the campaigns need to be reworked, revamped? Do you think they need to change?
There is always a need for change, especially when we're targeting our youth, because, they are engaged by a lot of different medias, including social media. And that is one of the ways we're actually reaching out and engaging with them, as well as what we could call traditional media and television. However, we definitely need to go back into our schools.
Right.
Because of COVID, we had to change. So usually we are in schools at the primary and secondary level, engaging them, especially as to a level as pedestrians, but also now we are recognizing that a lot of our young people from the data in 2021, we recognize a lot of young people are actually engaging and driving motor vehicles when they shouldn't, but they're excited about it. They want to take on this new role because they're becoming adults. And we recognize that, okay, if these young people will be sitting in a car 2-3 years from now, we have to engage them at a different level, not to be only pedestrians, which we all are at some point, but also for them when they're engaging now with their new opportunities in gaining mobility and using a vehicle. So
You're talking about the different ages
Groups.
of road users.
yes.
Do you think we've become immune to the road safety messages out there?
I think overall the general lawlessness and indiscipline, it's almost a part of our culture, and it really, what I would say, transports into our driving behavior and how we use the roads. It translates into that, and we see those actions every day by both pedestrians, private motor vehicle carriers, and public motor vehicle drivers and passengers. We see it every day. So there's a very general indiscipline. And if you recognize culture and entertainment, we tend to focus on driving fast cars and, these wonderful movies where these high-speed chases are so exciting. But unfortunately, those are Hollywood scenes, and what actually plays out, in our sphere in reality is that often those scenes end up, especially with speeding, end up in fatalities and devastating injuries, and injuries that people can't come back from.
Right. So is the Road Safety Unit working on any new campaigns, any new initiatives to reach people even further?
Well, we started the Stop the Foolishness campaign last year to really target a level of indiscipline that's happening on our roads.
Right.
And the campaign really targeted 3 of our major group road safety users, which is motorcyclists, because if you were to look at the 2021 data, you'll realize that over 30% of fatalities were motorcyclists, and they're the highest category, followed by pedestrians.
Wow.
And we recognize that for pedestrians, in the case of pedestrians, it really involves not only the pedestrian, but the motor vehicle, and private motor vehicle carriers really paying attention to pedestrians, especially elderly pedestrians and children, especially at night. And also, engaging the pedestrians in using the roads properly, and at night wearing reflective or light clothing so they can be easily identified. So, in that regard, we really, really had to take a step out there and ensure that both our motorcyclists have been covered and our pedestrians, and also private motor vehicle passengers, because a lot of our young men between the ages of 18 to 35, they're killing themselves.
Wow.
And, we are losing young people.
Breadwinners, family people, fathers,
And, it's a truly sad situation.
So what are some of the causes of these road traffic accidents? And how will the unit respond?
Well, we know that speeding is a major factor in most of our crashes. And of course, our Stop the Foolishness campaign is geared towards identifying and telling persons that speeding is no good, no matter the reasons that you have for speeding. Because one, it's very difficult for drivers to control the vehicle when it goes out of control. And also for drivers to recognize that they don't anticipate every move of a pedestrian or another vehicle. So once you're coming at a certain speed, one, you can't make decisions quickly enough to mitigate a crash. Plus, when there is a crash, the damage that what the body goes through and experiences, it's beyond nothing that they could even compare in real life. The damages to the body, to the brain, especially if you don't have on a seatbelt. And that's the other aspect that we really want to tap into, which is wearing protective devices. So especially our motorcyclists, the level of injury to the brain.
Wow. Is it because we're not wearing enough helmets?
We are not wearing helmets. And when we do wear helmets, we're not wearing the proper helmets. And a lot of our young men, when I go on to social media and I see these, Instagram posts of people generally behaving recklessly.
Right.
And they're driving, operating motorcycle recklessly on roads that are riddled with potholes, doesn't have a barrier between them and going over to the other vehicle that could be oncoming vehicle. And you wonder, okay, what, in terms of our culture of risk-taking, have we gone too far in order to get this exciting feeling? And, what are we really doing as a unit to really engage our young people to maneuver and manage the road properly and drive defensively? And that's some of the initiatives that we're going to embark on this year.
The Stop the Foolishness campaign and others
campaign.
like it.
Yes.
But do the helmets really help? Because if you get into the collision and you fall, how effective is the helmet?
Well, the truth is that motorcyclists need more than just a helmet. We focus on the helmet because, once that part of the brain, once you have damage to your brain, the survivability lessens. But there are other protective devices that motorcyclists critically need, which includes elbow pads, knee pads, shin pads. Really, the injury, when we look at the injury data to person's legs, most motorcyclists, when they're fortunate to walk away, they usually don't walk away. They're carried away because they have so many broken bones. Their legs, most times, they've crushed both ankles, knees, and sometimes they lose their leg.
We are halfway in our discussion on the need for motorists to take it easy on the road. The remainder on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
What a way you're full of our roots and culture. That was in Jamaica 60. Jamaica 60? What a piece of news, Miss Matty. I feel like my heart going bust up.
Just in, the island of Jamaica is on the verge of celebrating its 60th year of independence.
I will we have to celebrate it now. They say the people them come here, But you see, when our people decide, say the other people them free paper, them say if it's war, start it, whatever. We all collect medal panta fight,
The celebrations are slated to begin on January 1st, 2022. Organized by the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. We have more in this report.
On site and planning activities are ablaze. Persons are advised to download the Reggae Jamaica app to know what it pre. Activities for the Jamaica 60 celebration.
I download the app to get the updates then.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. Our discussion program continues with Acting Director of the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining. Her name is Deirdre Hudson Sinclair. Now, I know the Road Safety Unit usually sets projections for the year and frames its messages around that projection. How discouraged is the team when the fatalities go over?
Well, I usually when I think about my job, I really try to be on the positive, and we actually try to maintain that with our unit, because we have to try, especially with messaging and realizing that sometimes our targets change. So last year, if we were to take a look at the numbers, we had to target motorcyclists and education for motorcyclists heavily. And at the beginning of this year, there's a reduction in terms of motorcycle fatalities. So as the numbers progress, we change our educational programs in terms of our education initiatives based on what the numbers that we're seeing in terms of the amounts in fatalities. Now we educate all road users from whether PMC or private motor,
PMC.
Private motor vehicle carriers,
right,
or PVV, which is public passenger vehicles, as well as pedestrians. So we have education programs for all, meaning not only on traditional media but on social media, and we do it within schools. Right. But when we realize that based on where the numbers are taking us, throughout the year, then we will make emphasis on a particular road user. So last year we really did a lot with the National Road Safety Council in having motorcycle trainings. And we will continue to do this. But if we recognize there's a particular road user and the fatalities are high within that segment or that particular road user category, then we change our messaging and our focus.
Mid-campaign?
Sometimes, but what we'll do is take the strategy of using through social media, or if we know there's a particular group or places. So we know we focused a lot last year in the western parishes because we had a high motorcycle fatality rate in Westmoreland, in St. James, in St. Elizabeth, and we really targeted those areas, but we didn't necessarily leave out other road users in terms of messaging and education initiatives, but we try to put a zoom in focus on where we have the divisions based on the traffic divisions, because we work with the police to identify which traffic division is seeing a increase in a certain type of road fatality, and then we try to target through education.
Let's talk about some of the broader functions of the unit.
So the unit manages the National Road Traffic Crash Database. And we get the data from the police, the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch.
This is how you gather your data?
This is how we gather our data. And then we input it in our system, our computer system. And basically the reports that we do daily, weekly and monthly, the fatalities, we do a fatality report that informs, decision makers, especially other road safety stakeholders. So this decision making happens within our Ministry of Transport and Works, but it also happens for the National Road Agency, the council, which is a team of road safety stakeholders, both in government and also private sectors and non-profit organizations. And we take a look at what the data is telling us so we can make decisions in terms of enforcement, in terms of education, and in terms of policy.
Now, how can we really get road users to understand that their safety is really their responsibility?
Like our slogan, road safety begins with you. Yes, so it really takes continued education. It cannot stop. And that's why when you asked earlier if it mattered if we increase or we need to increase, we continuously need to ramp up because the numbers are showing that road fatalities are increasing, and we recognize that the number of vehicles on the road are increasing, the number of drivers are increasing. And as our population grows, everyone is a pedestrian at some point in time, so that increases. So there's going to always be a continuous need for education. What does need to be tailored is, one, the mediums. No, because we know that certain demographic appeal to, certain mediums, whether it's social media, Twitter, Instagram, and we have to look to the fact that, how we produce the information and how we're delivering it, whether it's in schools, whether we're going to engage persons online, and whether we are, we're going to continue with traditional media. So that will change dependent on age group. It will depend on how we engage the public, because, previous years to this, we would be able to go out to campaigns, in terms of public campaigns, go out on the road. We'd go to events, large-scale events, Dembies and all of these places to really interact with people. But because of COVID, we really had to change our scope in terms of becoming more, not only relying more on traditional media, but going to social media to actually get persons to see what we're doing. And then we work through our road safety stakeholders like the police in terms of enforcement and giving information. The police also supports us by going into schools through our training with the motorcyclists, the National Road Safety Council, which includes both private partners and NGOs to help us reach into, the areas that are rural areas where, we wouldn't necessarily normally have access up in the hills, but galvanizing a team of persons who can, on the local grassroots level, get these motorcyclists to come and say, hey, let's talk about it. What are you doing? What are you experiencing? Here's how we can help you learn how to maneuver your motorcycle safely and avoid crashes. So, it all happens on various levels.
I noticed you mentioned social media. Are there other forms of virtual engagement that you undertake?
Well, currently, because when schools were closed, but they were being offered online, we actually had to do our road safety programs, interaction with students online at both private at the primary level as well as the secondary level. So that was something that we had to shift our focus instead of going physically, and also realizing that, you know, we have to engage our young people at that level because that's what they're used to.
Right. All right. So we have to wrap. What is your road safety message for road users?
Well, you know, I'm asking our road users to be patient with one another and be patient with themselves, not try and rush out. If they're late, not try to speed to get somewhere. And I know sometimes people will cut you off on the road, you get upset, you want to bad drive them. Let's inculcate patience. Let us think about driving safely for our loved ones, living for our loved ones. And, you know, we have to really say to our you know, to the people that this level of indiscipline,
right,
you know, it has to stop. And the police and the Island Traffic Authority, they're working together. They'll be doing more spot checks, both day and night, including the ITA, who are looking at the maintenance of your vehicles, because that's another part that people, you know, road safety begins with you personally, but it also, you know, you have to look at your vehicle. How well maintained is your vehicle? Ensure they have the right tires, you check your brakes, all of that is important.
Including private vehicle owners?
Private vehicle owners,
right.
Because the truth is that if you are in an accident, if you are carrying a friend and you have an accident and that person is injured, they can sue you. So there is a due diligence that has to be done by our people, by drivers who are on our roads, making sure that vehicles are safe. But, you know, accountability, they're people who they're carrying, their lives are in their hands. So that also pertains to private motor vehicle drivers as well as public
motor vehicle drivers.
Yeah,
public
passenger
vehicles.
Yes.
All right. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Acting Director of the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining, Deirdre Hudson Sinclair. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Vanessa Silvera. Take good care, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
As we said minutes earlier, today, Sunday, January 6, marks the Earth Strong, the anniversary of the birth of the King of Reggae, Robert Nesta Marley. As this infernal pandemic continues to restrict our movement and ability to celebrate as we used to, we dip into our archives to 7 years past when the family, friends, colleagues, and fans of Bob Marley gathered to celebrate the 70th anniversary of his birth. It's time to track the musical history, life, and legacy of Bob.
Won't you help to sing another song of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs.
Let me hear you. Why-yo, 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 yo. You get up, stand up, you stand up for your right. You get up, stand up, don't give up the fight.
When you talk about Bob Marley, you talk about global.
He's the boss writer. The melodies are crazy, and I just love what he had to talk about. I loved his message.
Well, unity was my main thing, you know what I mean? When he united, you know, the two party leaders together on stage, you know what I mean?
You know, Bob Marley's our king though. Yeah, I mean, he's our daddy, just like Marcus Garvey.
The event, sponsored by telecommunications company Digicel and supported by the Ministry of Tourism, had hundreds of patrons coming out, reminiscing on the King of Reggae and his contribution, which reached every continent. Through his music, Bob was able to strengthen the consciousness of black people, even as he spread the message of love and unity among all peoples and races in a message of equality that transcended borders and time.
Every man have a right to decide his own destiny, and in this judgment there is no partiality.
Being in Zimbabwe with Bob, while we were on stage, I mean, the revolutionaries who fought in the war, which were teenagers mainly, they were not invited to the opening ceremony. And they heard Bob Marley's music from how many kilos away. They will tell you that Bob Marley's music was the music that kept them on the battlefield. No woman a cry. Those little 14-year-old soldiers. And when they heard it, they bombarded the gate and the soldiers tear gassed them. We were on stage and we felt the sensation. And we thought we were gonna die down in Zimbabwe.
Me, Sister Rita and Sister Judy, we all ran away, ran for our lives. Not even thinking about Bob. And at the end of it all, when everything came back to a calm, Bob went back on stage and finished his performance. And when he came to the house and saw the three of us, he just looked at us and said, now we know who are the real revolutionaries.
One good thing about music, when it hits you, you feel no pain. So hit me with music, brutalize me. Music now. Hit me with music, hit me with music now. This is Trench Down Rock. I said don't watch that. Trench Down Rock. Big fish or spread down. Trench Down Rock. You reap what you sow. Trench Down Rock.
My interaction with Bob, I can say, is pretty much more than most people in the industry, because when I went to Studio One at the age of 7, Bob was there, and so I knew Bob, Sister Rita, Sister Marcia, Bonnie, Peter. I knew all of them since I was 7. So Bob used to call me Little Freddy, and that's what he continued to call me until he passed.
And even as we celebrate and laud Bob as an entertainer, his children who bear his heritage and continue his legacy in music and business note how as a father he has shaped them.
Music is something he poured his soul into. He sweat day and night, not just for economical benefits, but for things that will really enhance a community, make change, create change. And to see that that's still relevant because of what he started, his purpose of what he started, it's resonating even 60 years after and 70 years later, from birth till when he started out, at 16 years old,
Children stand up for you. Yes, children stand up for you. Rasta children stand up for you. Yes, children stand up for you.
You lift your sin. Another song of freedom.
And just like that, we bring down the curtains on this Jamaica Magazine. We hope you had a good time reminiscing on Bob Marley's influence and music and learned something from our road safety discussion. We do this, inform and entertain every day. So tune in tomorrow for another program. Until then, check out our stockpile of content on the JIS website and YouTube channel. To engage with us, head to any of our social media accounts. Until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Be safe, and every little thing will be all right.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.